Hey guys, today I decided that I would do a video on how I cover up these acne scars that I have that are still healing up. I am doing a higher price foundation, the Kat Von D Lock-It Tattoo foundation from Sephora, and then I'm also doing a drugstore foundation to give you a second option for people that don't want to spend as much, and that is the L'Oreal True Matte. Okay, starting out, I like to use something like hydrating mist. This is the Derma-e hydrating mist with hyaluronic acid. I butchered that, but I'm going to link it in my blog, which I'm going to put the link for below. So I just start off by just spritzing this all over my face. This is good especially for people that tend to have drier skin, which I definitely do in the wintertime. So I like to just use a little bit of that just to prep my skin. Next, I just use a moisturizer. I'm currently using the Oil-Free Moisture by Neutrogena for sensitive skin. And I get a lot of redness in my skin, so sometimes I like to mix my Makeup Forever HD Green Primer. So I'm just going to kind of mix those together. So I'm just going to blend this in everywhere, concentrating on the places that tend to be the driest, which my forehead and around my nose usually tends to be the drier spots on my particular face. Like I have 9 faces or something, but anyways. I'm also going to use some clips and clip my hair back because this is going to drive me nuts. Okay. So cute. Next I'm going to be taking my Porefessional by Benefit, and I don't really have large pores per se, but right on the outside of my nose I have larger pores, so I like to kind of just put some of that in that area. I don't necessarily put this like all over my face, but mainly in the places where I need it. I like to rub it in a little bit and then pat it to really get it to sink down into those pores. So I'm going to start out with my drugstore L'Oreal True Match. I'm just using the Mineral Powder 45 Sephora brush. Not a lot of people use the mineral brush for liquid, but I love it for liquid. I feel like it really packs it into your skin, but also makes it so that it doesn't look cakey. You can really blend it out really well. So let's go ahead and start working this in. I got the cool version. I got the warm version in the Lumi because I was coming off of wearing spray tans all the time, and I thought that I needed that extra warmth in my skin, but my skin naturally has a lot of cool tones to it, so that was actually kind of ridiculous for me to do. This one blends a lot better, and literally I've tapped my brush in it one time and I've covered like 3/4 of my face. So just continuing to blend out. I like to run it over my eyelids just a little bit just because I am so fair that the veins, I hate that word, the veins start to pop through a little bit. So yeah. So what your foundation is going to do is it's going to give you a nice even tone, but it's not going to cover up all of like these darker like spots. Now this covered up a lot of like the smaller pigmentation that I had, but as far as these ones that are like newer, like over here and right down here, kind of over here, it didn't like really cover that up as much. And just because I am like about as white as my curtain behind me, I just like to bring my foundation down a little bit on my neck, and then whatever's left on my brush I like to just blend into my chest just to make sure it's seamless and that I don't have like any weird lines. Now sometimes I will use a beauty blender, but the good thing about this particular foundation is that it already is pretty liquidy. Dang, this one looks good. To cover up those little red spots, I use the CoverGirl Ready Set Gorgeous in the shade Fair 2410. I just dab it on those places that need a little extra help. Kind of like around the nose a little bit. And then one thing I like kind of started doing myself is I like to just kind of like do this like little triangle thing, because everybody always talks about wanting to do like a triangle underneath your eye, and I never could get like an even little triangle, so I started doing this like OCD looking tribal face paint and it seems to work really well for me. So I kind of just let that sit for a second, and please excuse my beauty blender. It looks really disgusting. I got a new one, but I haven't used it yet. So I figured why not use my filthy one for this video. Starting underneath the eyes, because I want to let this kind of sit and kind of cook on my skin, if you will. So I'm just going to start out by blending out under my eyes. And this is a dry beauty blender. It's a lot smaller than when it's a damp beauty blender. I like to use it dry for my under eyes because I've found that for me, if I have too much moisture underneath of my eyes, sometimes my makeup has a tendency to slide, and I really don't want that. By the end of the day, I don't want to like look in the mirror and see like a lot of redness from where it's like come up in the corners. Now if I was doing my regular beauty blender, I would do the damp beauty blender all over but not really concentrate it underneath of my eyes, and then do exactly what I'm doing now so that it kind of soaks up some oil and moisture. I don't know if I'm like the oiliest person just under my eyes. I don't know. So now I'm just going through and working in that product where that redness is. Now you will still kind of see them a little bit, especially on me, since I was terrible and awful and picked my face, and my dermatologist would smack me if she knew. And that's where it's not really wanting to cover up as much. So sometimes I do just a second little coat and just blend that in, but when I do powder over top of it, that's going to seal everything in, and that's really what's going to mask those little spots. So as far as the powder goes, I do one of two things just depending on the day and depending on the look that I want to do. If I want more of a natural kind of blended look where it's not super light and contrasty under my eye, I like to go in, we have pan going on, so just ignore that. But I like to go in with the Aveda Dual Foundation. This is really awesome because you can actually dampen this powder and it becomes a cream temporarily, and then the water soaks up and it goes back to a powder. It's really awesome. I'll use that, or I'll use my Anastasia contour kit. I'm getting really low on my banana color. Obviously I like it a lot, so I like that one. I like a really bright under eye area. I'll also use this color, which I believe is vanilla. I like to use my Real Techniques Expert Face Brush, and I'm going to be using the Aveda Color cream, which is the lightest one. So yeah, I'm just going to lightly just kind of work that in all over my face. And this just really helps to set everything so that your makeup's not going to move. I've seen videos where girls do not set their face and they also have perfect like skin, so they don't need to. Me, on the other hand, I like a more matte finish, and then I'll go in and use like a highlight to give me glowy looks to my skin. Or I'll use like a dewy setting spray, like I have one by NYX, and I'll use that sometimes just to give myself a nice sheen. Yeah. This is what the L'Oreal True Match and the Aveda Dual Foundation set over top of it looks like. You could go ahead and just fill your brows in and finish up the makeup look, but I am not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to actually take this all off. Okay, so I went ahead, took off all my makeup, and I already prepped exactly as we did the first time. So this time I'm using, as I mentioned before, the Kat Von D Lock It Tattoo Foundation. And this is in the shade 44 Light. I would use the Beauty Blender since this one is actually a little bit thicker. But I've been using the brush lately, and I've really been liking how this foundation comes out with the mineral powder brush. So I barely even like put any on there. And this one is like almost a half shade darker, but once I kind of set it with the powder, it really evens out and matches my skin tone very, very nicely. So this one is a lot thicker. This one would be really good for a night out when you really want extra full coverage because it is very heavy, so everyday normal use, some people might not like this, but like I said, anything at night, you know, photo shoots or whatever, if you have those, this would be good because it's not going to move. This one I barely have to set because you only use a little bit, and a little goes a long way. And it's more of a drier foundation than the first one, which was a lot more liquidy and more fluid. This one, since it's heavier and it's more matte, it's going to have a thicker, heavier consistency to it. So it's definitely really good to use that moisturizing spray in the beginning because it helps to really spread it out very evenly. Now with this one, I don't really have to do a whole lot. This one actually is very similar to Derma-Blend, which I've used previously. And that one's really good too. So if you're in the market for something that's really seriously going to cover, like intensely, that's going to be a really good one for you. Perfect. So just like before, I'm going to take that same CoverGirl concealer because it is my ultimate favorite at the moment, and it's like, I think like $6 at the drugstore. So I'm just going to do that same technique where I'm literally just doing 4, 3, 2, 1, and just dotting everything down. It looks like really silly and I feel really silly doing it, but honestly it gives me the most even coverage every single time. And since this foundation is a lot more coverage than the last one, I'm just barely dotting that on, and I'm not even going to really let that sit, and I'm going to go ahead and take my Beauty Blender and I'm going to just start blending out. Oh, these ones are such a nightmare. They popped up at the same time on Thanksgiving, or the day after Thanksgiving, and I just was like, really? This had to happen? Like, it couldn't just be one. I can handle one in one area, but it was like that cystic wants to stay with you for life, and I just wasn't having that. So like I said, my dermatologist would be appalled that I messed with them as much as I did. Okay, and since this one is a lot thicker under my eye, I am not going to use such a heavy powder. This time I'm still going to use my same Real Techniques brush, but I'm going to use the vanilla in the Anastasia kit, and I'm just going to pat that under my eye, get it really nice and set. And I'm just going to kind of set places that I need. Like I was saying, this one's wear resistant, transfer resistant. I mean, to an extent, you know, you're not going to be able to like rub your face all over someone's shirt and it's not going to come off. Like, it's totally going to come off. But they just mean that like, if you're like constantly touching your face, it's not really going to rub off as much. That's cute. Just give myself some dead looking lips. Oh, and I also like to get right in between my brows really good with this vanilla powder, because the other day I found that I was wearing this foundation and I didn't have it set properly in between my brows because I was like, I don't need it. And I did this, and you see that like frown line that I despise? Well, I had a nice little crease and like there was no makeup there, and I was like, lesson learned. Okay, we're setting that nice and well every single time. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my makeup. Alright, so after I have all of my makeup on, what I like to do is I like to go in with my Urban Decay All-Nighter. So you're going to hold it back about, I think they recommend 8 to 10 inches. I get a little crazy with it, but, you know, just do whatever you want to do. Whew. Alright. I got something in my mouth. But that is kind of the final look once I have all of my makeup on and in place. Yeah, so I just went through highlight, contour, all that good stuff, brows, because they were really sad before. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you like it when I talk more in videos versus doing voiceovers. If you would, check out my blog. I'll list the link below as long as everything I used, or I'm sorry, as well as everything that I used in this video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later.